So after a crushing defeat against Seton Hall, Rick Pitino, head coach Rick Pitino, Hall of Fame coach Rick Pitino, absolutely laid into his team after their really, really poor performance and their choke against Seton Hall in the second half. And this is what he had to say about his St. John's Red Storm men basketball team. Take a listen.
We just lack toughness. They shot 37 free throws. You see it every game, the amount of free throws they shoot and the amount of free throws we shoot. Look at what Naheem shot on the year. Look at what Chris Ledlam shot on the year. I mean, you're a power forward. You play 29 minutes without a free throw. We are so non-athletic that we can't guard anybody without fouling. And really, it's not about losing. Because even in winning, when we watch the film, I see unathletic plays. I see people that don't handle the ball, that's just interested in taking quick shots. So it's been a disappointing year. I think I've enjoyed, even the Celtics when we lost, I've enjoyed every minute being a Boston Celtic coach. Didn't like the fact that we lost in that following year, but this has been the most unenjoyable experience I've had since I've been coaching.
Rick Pitino did not stop moving.
Is he trying to get fired?
Yeah, no, it's been rough. And he said that it wasn't St. John's. It was more just the team. It was his team that he had a major problem with.
Well, his team is St. John's team.
Right, but it's not.
I mean, he got to pick the team.
Not really. The amount of time they had to recruit was very, very little.
St. John's is paying his salary, well, you go ahead. You make your comments on that.
I was going to open up the question. Do you think Coach Pitino went too far?
Yeah, I do. I think he went way over the top here, and I think he's doing it to try to shame these guys into playing better, if he thinks that's possible, so that they have some outside chance of making the tournament, which looks like a remote possibility now. We're going to the game next Sunday. Let's hope that they're at least playing for something in that game. It's possible they won't be. They do have 4 out of the last 5 games against teams that are below them. They got to win all of those. But Pitino came out and said, sure, Georgetown can beat us. Definitely. They can definitely beat us. He said the team is not tough. He said that we are so unathletic that we can't guard anyone without fouling. He said that Soriano, Ledlam, Cowan, and Treone are slow laterally, and that's why they foul, because they can't get to the spot before the play gets there, and they wind up fouling, and that's why they give up so many free throws. He said they can't make their own free throws. They led Seton Hall by 19 in the first half, and they only scored 4 points in the first 12 minutes of the second half. They're 2-8 in the last 10 games, and they're 14-12 now, and 6-9 in the division. So, they blow second half leads. They miss free throws. Opponents make free throws, and their turnovers, and they take bad shot selection. That's why they fall apart in the second half, according to Rick Pitino. So he couldn't say enough bad things about his players. If he thinks that's going to motivate them to play better, so they might have a chance of getting back in the tournament conversation, then I'm not sure he's right. And then he came out today and said, I wasn't ripping anyone.
Yeah, I saw that.
How can he say that? He was ripping everybody. So a little odd, and I think he ought to watch out. He might want to get himself fired.
Well, it's not a great look. I'm going to say that. But I can understand where he's coming from, because I have the exact same frustrations as a student at St. John's. Watching these games, I have the exact same frustrations. Because this St. John's team, it is unbelievably frustrating. And in the Big East, it's rough. These are the numbers. These are St. John's numbers in the Big East. This is their rankings. Points per game, they're 7th. This is out of 11 teams in the Big East. They're 7th in points per game. 3-point percentage, they're 2nd to last. Field goal percentage, they're 8th. Free throw percentage, dead last. Fouls committed per game, they have the most in the Big East. And their record, 6-9, is 9th in the Big East. This team in its totality has been a massive disappointment on many, many spots. The first one would be Chris Ledlam, who we mentioned. Talk about his free throws. How about just his production offensively, shooting the ball? Last season, he was 18.8 points a game. This season, 8.9. Jordan Dingle, who averaged 20 points a game for the past 2 seasons. He had his career high last year, 23.4. He's averaging 10 points per game. And even players like Joel Soriano, number of games where just massive disappointments. Danish Jenkins, he has a slightly less production, but it's very, very similar to when he was with Iona with Rick Pitino last season. So just in its totality, St. John's, the players have not lived up to who, they were really playing with. And Naheem Aline, who honestly hasn't had the greatest college career, there's not much to talk about when it comes to him. He doesn't get a lot of playing time. He did win with UConn, so I thought that you bring some of that idea of how to win the NCAA tournament. He brings that, showcases that to his team, and shows like, hey, with UConn, we did this. Is there any way we can install it in this offense? Apparently not, because they've been a massive disappointment all year. And these numbers are crazy. So I have a friend who goes to UConn, and we have our bets with one another with, who's going to win. And I've lost, I think we bet $20 each game. So I've lost $60 when I bet with him because they won one game last year. Each game this season, they were up at halftime. They came out and choked. 6 of their 9 Big East losses, they were up at halftime. UConn, the first game, up 32-26 at half. A win against Providence, they won by 2 points. They were up by 11 at half, 40-29. In a loss against Marquette, they were up 34-28 at half. The second UConn game, up 37-36. 1 point game, you're still up though. You're still winning. Marquette, 47-38. You're winning at half. Providence again. I believe this is 38-33 at half. And finally, in this game, probably the biggest disappointment, you're up 41-29 at half, and you fall apart in the second half. We talk about sometimes with Mahomes and his ability to come back when down by a touchdown, where he's like 9-3 in those situations. No lead is too big no deficit is too big for Mahomes. No lead is too big for St. John's in this season. However, it's time to look at some silver lining here. Rick Pitino's college career. Year one, it's not pretty. It normally never is filled with winning.
This is as a coach.
As a coach. Boston University, he was 17-9 in his first year. The following year, he went 21-9 and won their division's title. Providence, 17-14, year one. Following year, 25-9, made the Final Four. Kentucky, 14-14 in year one. 22-6, and the SEC title the following year. Louisville, 19-13 year one. 25-7, and won the Conference USA Championship. And finally, Iona, 12-16 in year one, and 25-8 the following year.
So it's the second year that Pitino is he gets the most out of his
Correct.
players and winds up making tournaments and things. The first year is tough.
Right. And the massive disappointment is this is not the second time they've choked against Seton Hall. Now, the first time they played this season, they were down by 14 at halftime. And normally, if you're down, your coach pumps you up, you got energy, you have an idea of what their game plan is. St. John's comes out in the second half, and they give up a 16-3 run. The game is basically over at that point. They lost by 25 in that game. This team is not great. I thought they'd be much better with the amount of talent, the experience they're bringing in. And unfortunately, it's just been a massive disappointment, and it is because of these second half just breakdowns.
Yeah.
They look great in the first half. UConn in both games. Now, it was only 1 point. They were only up by 1, but both games I was like, St. John's could do this. They're doing really well on defense. They're not committing that many turnovers. Mm-hmm. They're driving to the lane, hitting their shots. In the second half, it's like we talk about the 49ers breakdown on defense. This is a complete breakdown in the second half. They can't shoot. As Pitino said, they're just forcing up shots. It's very, very annoying and frustrating to watch this team play.
Do you think, I want to ask you this.
Sure.
You've criticized Bill Belichick as being an out-of-touch coach.
Yeah.
Being old and not being be able to relate to his younger players now. It's the league has changed. It's more about cozying up to the players and building up their esteem and being more collegial with them. Yeah. That's not Belichick's style, right? Okay. Rick Pitino, very similar, Nate, and he he belittled the players, and you see him on the sideline during the games. He's yelling at them.
Yeah.
And you think that it's a coaching issue, that these players that had good seasons last year have had lousy seasons this year because he's in their head and upsetting them and making them nervous so they don't play well.
I think
Is there something in that? Is there something to that? Is it a Pitino issue?
I don't think so, because he made the NCAA tournament last year with Iona, and actually this is sort of a recurring theme, I guess, with Rick Pitino. They were beating UConn in the NCAA tournament in that first round at halftime, and then fell apart in the second half. But he consistently makes the NCAA tournament. I think what could contribute to just the lack of success is the fact that they have the fourth hardest schedule in the Big East. And if we're talking about, St. John's during the in the entire NCAA, out of 362 teams, they have the 13th hardest schedule.
Mm-hmm.
So they're playing an incredibly tough schedule with players that are, underperforming in the second half, because, like I said in the first half, 6 out of the 9 losses, they were leading at halftime.
Yeah. So how can they be an unathletic team if they started the season 12-4?
Well,
I mean, how does that
you're not playing
equate?
You're not playing tremendous teams. You're playing Stony Brook and Michigan, who you lost to by 16 points. North Texas, Dayton. No offense to any of these schools, but the Big East, we see the Big East is the number 1 team in the nation right now. UConn, who have like 1 loss in their own conference. But yeah, you're playing Boston College, who you lost to by 6. Sacred Heart, who you beat by 35 points. Like, you're not playing tremendous competition. You're playing, divisions that are not great compared to your own division.
So you're saying when they got into the tougher games, it
Correct.
showed that they didn't have the talent.
Correct. You start off with the Big East. You started off 1-1, and then you did win your next 3 in your Big East. So you come out 4-1, and then in the last 10 games you go 2-8.
So Pitino said, I didn't recruit well. I recruited a team that is just 180 degrees opposite of where I am. They're just not tough. So how do you think this is going to affect his ability to recruit going forward? I mean, if I were someone young in high school, a senior, and I was highly touted and going to be have a lot of interest from these big college teams, would I choose St. John's after I hear the coach say things like this about the players?
Well, it depends on, the type of offers you get. If you're getting an offer from UConn, you're going to take the UConn place, absolutely, because UConn, we've seen in the past couple of years, they just won the NCAA tournament last season, and they're the number 1 team in the nation this year. So it depends on what offers you're getting for. Where are you looking to go to school? If you're transferring,
do you want to be yelled at after every time you come out of the game?
Then you could say, what kind of player are you? Are you looking for hard coaching? Yeah. Are you looking to team up with a Hall of Fame head coach like Pitino, who consistently makes the NCAA tournament over his tenure, who has made a number of Final Fours?
Has he ever won the national championship?
I do not believe he has.
No.
I know for a fact he's made a couple Final Fours. Oh, no, he was in the NCAA championship, but the Louisville incident got that revoked, if I'm not mistaken. He won it back in 2012, 2013. He was the NCAA champion,
Yeah.
but
it was revoked?
It was revoked.
Because of his recruiting.
No, it wasn't his recruiting. There was some incidents on campus.
Oh, right.
That he had to deal with. But he's a winning coach. If we just take a look at what he's done over his career, we have to do that. We look at Belichick and we say, yeah, his drafting has sucked, but he's won 6 Super Bowls. He makes the playoffs a couple times. Now, if you break it down, it's bad draft, bad quarterback, didn't win much without Tom Brady, but he's won a lot of games, and that's why we consider him the greatest. Are you looking for hard coaching? Are you looking to learn what a winning mindset might look like? I'm not saying go out and get a Tom Brady mindset, but if you're looking for hard coaching and you want to grow, I don't see why Rick Pitino can't do that.
Yeah.
I think with
we'll
his
see
reputation,
who he gets next year.
I'd say with his reputation.
There's a lot of transfers
yes,
now. A lot of players transfer from college to college. Are people going to want to transfer in? Or elite players going to want to transfer into St. John's after they see how this season went and how sour grapes Rick Pitino was, saying this is the most unenjoyable experience of his life. Come on. Come on. I wonder what the president of St. John's thinks about that. I mean, there is something to say about, being a good sport and being a good, colleague on your team and being a coach that supports your players. I mean, this isn't all about, is it all about winning? Is that all it's about?
Well, I was at his opening day press conference.
At the college level, is it just all about winning? Is that all that matters?
I was at his opening day press conference. I was at the media day, and he made it very clear he wants to put St. John's back in like the category back where Lou Carnesecca, where he put St. John's, right on the front of the map. The Big East represent it. And that, I think, is what he's going for. He wants to be back, always in Madison Square Garden. He wants to be back on the big stage and try to have that be a massive success. And when you have players who are severely underperforming, who in large part, they're just playing, sometimes I talk about the Knicks playing dumb basketball against the Heat, sometimes they're just chucking up shots. That has nothing to do with Rick Pitino yelling at them. That is just trying to play hero ball. Now, in the first half, they play great. The second half breakdown is it could be exhaustion. It could be that it's easy to figure out what St. John's is doing. That's coaching. If you make a game plan that is so clearly obvious, they didn't shoot many threes to open up the season with.
They can't shoot threes.
They had
they haven't got anybody that can hit a 3-point shot consistently.
Right. So I think it's just inconsistent play, breakdowns on defense, just crushing offensive scheme in the second half where they're just chucking up shots. I'm excited to see what year 2 looks like, if there even is a year 2. Who knows? Maybe St. John's fires Pitino.
I don't think so.
I don't think so. I think he was very, very frustrated, and he said at the very end of that,
says he wasn't ripping anybody. I'd hate to see what it's like when he does really rip somebody. What's that like?
Well, he said at the end of that press conference, right at the end of the game, that he was trying to say the right things. I don't know if he portrayed that in the best way, trying to say the right things, but I don't have a massive problem with it because it does seem like they're just underperforming. You have a guy who scores 20. Now he's scoring 10. A guy who's scoring 23 scores 10. It could be that they, like, for instance, Jordan Dingle, he played for Harvard. Or I'm sorry. No, he played for Penn. Excuse me. He played for Penn in the Ivy League. Ivy League versus Big East. Who's the tougher division?
The Big East.
The Big East tougher. Ledlum played for Harvard, averaging 18.8. Big East is harder than the Ivy League division. So it could be that the players...
Although Princeton has gone deep into the NCAA Tournament a couple of times, right? So...
You don't think that's just,
I don't know. I mean, they've been competitive in there have been Ivy League teams that have been competitive in the NCAA Tournament.
Well, unfortunately, none of these guys went to Princeton. So they're playing for Penn. And by the way, if we look at the Ivy League set up this time, Penn is currently third in the Ivy League, 9-5. Harvard is second to last at 5-9. So once again, not at the top of the Ivy League. But if you compare the Ivy League division to the Big East in its totality is much harder. You add on top of that, you have the fourth toughest strength of schedule in the Big East. It could be that these players are just not good enough to be consistent, good players in a tougher division. There's not many transfers.
I've watched quite a few of the St. John's games this year. They definitely don't have enough talent.
Yeah.
They don't have enough talent. They don't have the guy who can hit the 3 ball consistently. They haven't got that. And Pitino's right. They aren't fast enough laterally to prevent scoring and have to foul.
Yeah.
They give up, and that happens to them consistently in the second half. And then they don't get to the foul line. He said they're not tough enough. That's one thing. And then when they do, they don't make the shots. So
yeah, no.
I think that
free throw percentage is 69.7.
He has a lot of what he said is credible, but I don't think he should be saying it to the whole world. I think he should be saying this to the kids in the locker room.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, if you want to check out the full episode, make sure you click the I in the top right-hand corner right now. If you want to listen to this show anywhere you go, make sure you go to anchor.fm/The Harvey Hour or anywhere you get your podcasts.